Hi, I'm Catherine Turpin, and I'm a professor of practical theology and religious education here at Iliff, and I'm also the director of the MDiv program. So I identify as a practical theologian, and that can be an oxymoron for some people, right? Theology seems to be very abstract, and practical is about the nitty-gritty of day-to-day practice. For me, the intersection of those two things, the ways that we think more globally, more theoretically, more abstractly about whatever we're studying, pairs with, well, what are we going to do with this? How does this live out in the real world? And so when I teach, it's always for me a real lively conversation back and forth between skills, strategies, things that we do in community, and why we're doing those. What are the assumptions behind them? Where are those erroneous? Where are those really grounded in reality? Things like that. I teach a lot of classes like Intro to Christian Worship. The goal is, at the end of the term, somebody should be able to design and lead Christian worship. That's a very specific skill set. But along the way, we're asking, well, what kinds of theologies feed into that? Well, who are you going to be leading in worship? What is their context like? What is the world that they're living in like? What are the visions and dreams they hope for? So it's always a pairing of this sort of abstract or broad or esoteric with the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day, and that is always a part of what I'm doing. Some of the classes I really love to teach, one is in spiritual autobiography and memoir. And for me, I started teaching that because I was looking around and realizing this is, I think, the third biggest genre in some areas of book selling. So what is it about this form of spiritual narrative that really is compelling to people, and how does that help not only to write those kinds of narratives, but what does that help us learn about how spirituality works, why experience is so critical to that, and what we can take from that in our storytelling and other settings. I also teach a class in Women in Spirituality, which is historically the ways in which women have been sort of sidelined in the formation of spirituality and particularly Christian religious life. And it's about both recovering the history of the women that were doing that work and whose legacy has been preserved, but also thinking about, in this day and age when gender is a little more fluid and we think about gender differently, but misogyny, sexism are still in effect, how do we think about what is the unique sort of intersection of what it means to be women working around issues of spirituality? I think one of the things I would want to say is just how much my own life has been changed by Iliff students. I think we gather a unique group of people that have really diverse perspectives, and they push each other, they push me. We all, I think, work together to really build the knowledge that's necessary for now. And nobody, I think, has a pattern for that or a blueprint for how it's going to go. There's a real sort of co-creativity in that process that I think is really magic. There's a lot of, every class is different. When you teach the same class over time, it's different because the students bring so much to that. And that's what's really gratifying for me as a teacher, is getting to work with students who are grown people with commitments, with values, with experience that they bring to the classroom, that when we put that together with the historic people we're reading or the contemporary people we're reading, is really brings something much bigger than the sum of the parts.